Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you all are doing well. This is Mohammad Badruddin back again, and today we are going to talk about Active Directory. What is Active Directory? And it is important to understand what it is and its different type of components before we get our hands dirty. So we start with what is Active Directory. So Active Directory is a Microsoft database and set of services like Active Directory domain services, certificate services, and all that centralizes management of network resources like users, computers, printers, and security within a Windows domain. So it acts as a phone book to authenticate users by checking the credentials and authorize access to files or applications, simplifying administration, enforcing security policies, and managing thousands of objects from one location. So there is a concept in these kind of environments. We talk about subjects and objects. So make sure you know about subjects and objects. Subjects are the active components like users, and object is like a file. Okay, so anyone who is accessing a resource is subject, and the thing which is accessed by the subject is object. So object is passive. It stay idle until someone call it, and the subject is active. Fine, object is passive and subject is active. Now, second thing is how Active Directory works. So as I mentioned earlier that it is a centralized database or a centralized system. Centralized system is the overall thing, but it has a centralized database of everything within that environment, within that centralized environment. So Active Directory stores all the user accounts and permissions in a centralized database, which is known as domain controller. So the server where this database exists or is stored is known as domain controller server, and it eliminates basically the need for local account management on every computer. Fine, we will see that in action. This is the most important component of Active Directory, or you can say this is the most important function of Active Directory, which is authentication and authorization. So when a user logs in, Active Directory validates their credential, and this process is known as authentication, and then it determines what resources they are allowed to access, and this process is known as authorization. So before authentication and authorization, one component comes, which is identity. So it is like IAAA. So I stands for identity or identification. The first A stands for authentication, second A stands for authorization, and third A stands for accounting. So IAAA, identification, authentication, authorization, and accounting. Fine. So the next thing is hierarchical structure of Active Directory, and these components are most important. You will always encounter these in your administration, or if you are performing penetration testing, you must know the difference between these. So the object is basically an individual item like user, computer, or printer. Object could be a user, and object could be a service or server like file server or print server. Fine, it is a passive component. So it is an individual item which is object. Now organizational units, these are the containers for organizing objects. Objects could be group of users, group of computers to which policies can be applied. Now suppose there is a group of users on which you want to apply some security policies or any type of policy. You will create an organizational unit, an OU, and you put all those users in that OU, and then you create a policy and apply that policy on that OU. Okay, so this is what OU is, and it is used for applying the policies. It is like a container for grouping objects. Objects could be servers, services, files, or users. Okay, now the third component is domain. So what is a domain? A collection of objects sharing a common database and security policy. So whatever security policy you implement in that domain, it will take effect on every object in that domain. Okay, so there are different level of policies too, we will see that in later on videos that some policies are domain level, which will affect everybody in that domain, every user in that domain or every computer in that domain. And there are some specific policies that you can apply on OU, so that will affect only on that OU or group of users or computers. Fine. Go to the next. This is also the part of hierarchical structure. So the concept of trees and forest. So the trees are basically the collection of related domains that share a contiguous namespace. Like we can say google.com, google.in, google.ca, okay, google.us, something like that. Okay, so this is the tree. That is a collection of domains that share the contiguous namespace. Okay, so the domain name will always be the same. Subdomains can be different, like www.google.com, mail.google.com, exchange.google.com, images.google.com, something like this. So you get the idea, right? So these are the trees. And suppose that there is an organization that has domain A, and that organization also has subdomains, okay, which contains a tree. And there is another domain, okay, it also has subdomains or it also has a tree. But if these two organizations want to access their resources, they need to build a trust relationship among them or between them, so that users from domain A can access the resources of another organization which is domain B. Okay, so and this complete picture where different domains or different trees exist, known as forest, because in the forest there are different trees. Okay, so a forest is a top level container holding one or more trees, and everything inside a forest shares a common schema, global catalog, and security trust structure. Fine. Let's move to the controllers and policies. So what is domain controller or domain controllers? Domain controller is basically a server that holds a copy of Active Directory database, and they authenticate users and replicate changes to other domain controllers. So it is possible that a single Active Directory environment may have two or more than one domain controllers. Most of the time you will see in the organization that they have one primary domain controller and a secondary domain controller, which stays idle, but it is all the information replicated from primary domain to the secondary domain, so that once the primary domain controller gets down, or for the maintenance administrator make it down, the secondary domain controller comes into the picture and they transfer the roles and it becomes the primary domain controller. So basically all the domain controllers in an environment, they have their different roles, and all the information between them is replicated by the primary to secondary and to the third domain controller. Okay, and within the trees also, organizations may have different domain controllers. Now things come to the group policies. So as I mentioned, it is also managed by the domain controller. Group policy is basically a feature that enables administrators to create group policy objects which define security settings and configuration rules that are automatically applied to the users and computers. Fine. So as I mentioned earlier when I was describing organizational unit, that if you want to apply some specific policies on specific department users or different group of users, you will create an OU, put all those users in that OU, and you apply a policy on that OU. So that specific policy applied to all of these users. So there is also one concept of access control. And there are different type of access controls like mandatory access control, discretionary access control, role-based access control, rule-based access control, attribute-based access controls. So different type of access controls are there, and in future I will also describe those because it is important for you to know those type of access controls. Okay, so in Active Directory environment in an organization, most of the times you will see role-based access control, because the employees in the finance department, they have different roles. The employees in the HR department, they have different roles. So according to those roles, you will define the policies, and you will define the access rules, how much access to which resource or objects. Okay, fine. So this is the last slide of this video, and here we will talk about the core component and functions. So the first thing foremost, we will talk about the Active Directory domain services, and this is the most important and most fundamental service of any Active Directory environment, and this is the main service for storing the data and handling user management. The second thing is schema. So as we all know, it defines the type of objects and attributes that can be stored in the directory. Fine. Let's see global catalog. So the global catalog, global name basically tell you everything. Catalog is a collection where you see different things. Like when you go to choose a color or a paint which you are planning for your home, so when you go to the shop, they will give you a catalog of different colors. So all the colors and shades they have in that catalog. Similarly, we are talking about the global catalog. So this is the central repository which contains a subset of all objects in the forest and allowing search across multiple domains. Fine. Replication, I already defined it. Suppose you have more than one domain controller in your organization. One is primary, one is secondary or backup. So this process, the replication process, basically ensure that all domain controllers share the same information, ensuring consistency. Fine. Trust relationship, this also I define. So the trust relationship allow users in one domain to access resources in another domain managed within the forest. So like in this image, you can consider these two domain or these two trees as different organizations. They want to build the trust relationship so that they can access the resources for each other. Okay, and the trust relationship is also different types of trust relationships like transitive trust and intransitive trust, one-way or two-way trust. Okay, so in one-way trust, let's say only domain 1 users can access resources, specific resources in domain B, but domain B users cannot access any resources in domain A. So this is one-way trust, and in two-way trust, both of the organization's users can access defined resources with each other. Fine. So that's it for this video. I hope it is easy for you to understand. I will try to make things as much easier as I can so that it will be more understandable for you. And I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye.